Hey everyone, it's Job. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are talking about all things fountain pens and some of my favorite fountain pen inks, pens, and accessories at the moment. This video is actually in collaboration with my good friend Abby C, who is the artist and author behind the art of the travel journal, which I was recently a part of. I am one of the featured artists at the back of the novel, and I would love if you could check out Abby's work, her Patreon, and her lovely new book. But let's get started. I'm giving you a little teaser of what's to come, but let's talk about inks. I love a good saturated ink, but more recently I've been really liking lighter shades, and I had the privilege to try this lovely ink brand called Monarca Inks, which is a Mexican ink brand which I've been wanting to try for the longest time. And my lovely friend Eric Gama of Amarillo Stationery was so kind to actually send this to me to try, because I think he probably got sick of me talking about how much I wanted to try this. But this specific ink, Monarca's Arena Blanca, is my current obsession in terms of inks, because I don't know, there's just something about light beige inks that I'm so into. I've been trying to actually acquire this ink and this other ink called Colorverse Chesapeake Bay, which is another light ink that has a little bit more brown to it. This is a true like tan beige. For some people this might be a little too light, but I think it's actually quite legible and readable in a medium nib, which is my preferred nib of choice when I'm writing with fountain pens. But even using the Kakimori steel nib to write down the little title for my swatch, I think it's still really readable, and it dries down, obviously a little bit darker, just like a lot of inks. But I just like how cozy this looks. It's very pencil like in terms of how it looks to me. I know pencils aren't like brown, like it's usually a gray color, but it has that same vibe. It's like very cozy to look at for me, and it's not too distracting, and it's still legible, which is I think the most important thing about using lighter inks, which I really like again, but it's not everyone's cup of tea. I also think that if you are looking for a light ink like this, there's actually a few similar shades. I've already mentioned the other one, which is Chesapeake Bay by Colorverse, but I think Ink Studio 274 is actually a really nice shade that I've been using for the longest time. That one has a little bit more pink in it and is a little bit darker, but I would say this is one of my lightest inks, and it's still really legible and readable. The next ink is such a Job color. I love olive greens, and I thought I had, one of the perfect olive greens already, which I still really love. It's actually from Abby. It's Rohr and Klinger's Alt Goldgrün, but I recently received this as a gift from two friends, Miranda of Havoc Rose and Chelsea of Those with Words. The two hosts of the Words and Roses podcast actually had the chance to do their logo and their branding, and this was their little gift for me for doing that. It's so kind of them. They didn't really have to do it, but I am so glad that they did, because this olive ink is stunning. I would say that it's not as shady as Alt Goldgrün, but I really like this olive shade. It's just the perfect olive, and it has the right amount of yellow in it. Sometimes I feel like some olive shades have too much yellow and it ends up being more of a chartreuse ink, which, don't get me wrong, I love chartreuse. It's one of my favorite colors, and I actually have a really good ink for like a chartreuse color recommendation. I really like Sailor Ink Studio 670, which is really nice, but I think this is one of my favorite olives, along with Rohr and Klinger's Alt Goldgrün. I love how this dries down, and I can't wait to put it in my Kaweco collection in like that lovely olive shade that they came out this year. I still can't believe that I'm not really a saturated ink kind of guy. Like, I haven't really touched, my darker and deeper colors. I've just been really loving light colored inks that are very shady. I think it just looks really cool when there's a shading property to inks, and it just looks so dimensional on a page. And so when Sailor released the Urameku line, I had a hard time choosing because everything was so nice. Honestly, all of these inks look very similar. The Urameku line, I believe, is like a rain theme, and so everything kind of has this like really light and ethereal quality to all of the inks that they released in this line. All of them have like a gray, I guess not all of them, but most of them look gray, but they look so different on different paper stocks. They look different on bank paper, on Tomoe River paper. I'm using the Plotter DP paper, and I think this paper actually is really nice in showing a lot of ink properties. It doesn't show as much shading and like variation as Tomoe River paper, but I really enjoy using Plotter paper because it feels like the lovely in between the two papers that I really like, MD paper and or Midori paper, and also Tomoe River paper. But as you can see, this ink is so ethereal. It almost looks like a subtle, soft cousin of like the oil slick trend that was really popular. It has, all of the iridescent colors, but it's not truly like iridescent. But it's a gray base that shifts to purple and green. I don't know, and it's just really light. It also looks like pencil sometimes. Again, there's like a running theme with the inks that I like. I love when things kind of look like other things, so this kind of looks like a really nice fine pencil that you were writing with. I still love saturated inks like the Ablation Olive, but there's just something about the different color variations that you can see in some inks that I'm just so head over heels with. But I definitely want to try the other Urameku inks to see which other ones I love. Abby and I mentioned that we would only choose like 3 favorites for each category, but I just have some honorable mentions. I cannot go without saying that I love Diamine Golden Honey. I talk about this ink like every other week, every other day, but it's just such a nice, like readable and like writable yellow. I know it looks like orange right now. It's a nice orange yellow, but it really does look like golden honey. It just has that amber like quality, but it's still not dark enough to be a proper amber, but it still has the nice like joyful quality of like a nice yellow ink, but it still just looks so nice when you're like looking at it in your notebook or your journals. Honestly, the Kakimori like writing makes it look a lot more orange, but if you're writing it with a pen, it actually looks a little bit more yellow instead of orange. One of my last honorable mentions is Brandy Snap from Diamine's Ink Vent calendar from last year. I actually was a big hater of the Ink Vent calendar last year because there were no greens and reds. I just wanted some fun festive colors, but there was like a lot of blues, which aren't really my favorite type of ink and not my favorite color, but I really went back and realized that Brandy Snap is actually so nice. I actually thought this was Brandy Shop for the longest time, but the brush lettering or the calligraphy on the bottle just looks so close to an H, but I really like this because it's close enough to Robert Oster's Cafe Crema, which I mean it's not a total dupe, but I really wanted that ink, and I didn't want to go buy a full ink bottle of it right off the bat, and I realized maybe let me just check out my stash, and I had something that was pretty similar. So if you have an ink vent calendar, be sure to check out Brandy Snap because it's actually a really lovely ink. Not Brandy Shop, Brandy Snap. But these are the completed swatches from our little ink favorites. I know we were supposed to choose 3, but I chose 5. I've just been loving all of these so much. You can tell that I love my warm, darker inks like the oranges and greens, but I also really like some light beiges and purples and like grays. I'm not even a big purple fan, but there's something about a light shading ink that just tickles the back of my brain in like a good way. But again, you can never go wrong with a lovely olive and some warm mustardy yellows and honey colors, and obviously a solid brown ink will never fail you because it's so readable and it's nice to write with. And I think it's a great alternative if you don't just want to use plain old black ink. I actually never use like black fountain pen ink unless I'm drawing with it, because that's the fun about fountain pens. There's so many cool inks and so many cool ink properties in a lot of modern inks, and we just got to take advantage of it. Let's talk about some current favorite fountain pens. The first one is a little bit of a cheat because I literally just got this, but I love it so much and I had to mention it. And I actually didn't ink it up until I was filming this because it's a TWSBI Eco. I think a lot of us know what a TWSBI Eco looks like, and most of us probably have one. I'm just assuming. If you don't know what a TWSBI Eco is, it's a fountain pen from the TWSBI company. It's one of their introductory level pens, and it's usually a demonstrator. I don't think they're always demonstrator pens, but sometimes they have opaque or translucent caps or elements. But I tend to like the ones that have opaque, caps. And this specific one is a lovely mustard yellow from the Karashi Soel collaboration with TWSBI, and it's this lovely mustard yellow. As you can see, I already own a yellow TWSBI. This one was the limited edition release from either 2020 or 2021, and I am on this, again, I've said this before, Thanos-like quest to get all of the opaque TWSBI Ecos. It's just so hard. There's so many limited editions, but I have been loving this journey, and I could not pass up this mustard yellow. I thought my yellow TWSBI was already, good enough, but when I found out that there was a mustard version, I was like, yeah, I need to get on that because it is so nice. And again, I love mustard yellow, I love burnt oranges, and I love olive greens. Those are like the colors that I gravitate towards. And so I had to add this to my collection, and I ended up inking this with another Diamine Inkvent 2021 ink. This is from, I think this is called Candlelight. This is called Candlelight from the recent Inkvent calendar. I actually really like this ink because it is, again, another readable yellow, but this has, I don't know, like it almost leans into like a brown sometimes, and it's very shady. But I think it's a lovely companion to this pen. I also need to mention that this TWSBI that I got, the mustard yellow one, is actually a fine nib, and I usually go with a medium with my TWSBI Ecos, but I am proud to report back that this TWSBI writes beautifully. I mean, we all know that they are reliable writers, but I've just been nervous to go back to using fines and extra fines because that's what I used at the beginning of my fountain pen journey. But the more that I used fountain pens, the more that I enjoyed using medium nibs, and it was nice to give myself a little chance to try another fine nib again. Let's head on to the next favorite. This one is a little bit different for me. This is my first vintage fountain pen. This is a Waterman fountain pen with a 14K gold nib. This is a little bit of a pocket pen. Not a little bit, it is truly a pocket pen. It is quite tiny, but it is so lovely. It is made out of celluloid, which is a highly flammable material. Let's not talk about that. I've just been keeping it in a very cool, dry place, and I'm trying not to, put it near excessive heat. I don't foresee myself, exposing this to any flames or heat, so I don't think it's gonna be a big problem for me. But I just love this because it's my first flex nib. I did some research, aka just internet sleuthing, and this fountain pen is from the 40s. I can't remember the actual model and make of it right now, but I have it somewhere in my phone. But I've been really loving this. I purchased this at the SF Pen Show, and I purchased it from a lovely vintage pen seller. He actually repaired this, and the way he shined it up, it looks fantastic. It looks brand new. But the main reason why this is a current favorite is that you can do this with it. It's so nice. It is not a true wet noodle in terms of gold nib flex pens. It's not super flexy, but you can still get such lovely brush lettering, or calligraphy with it. It does look like my favorite brush pen, though. I need to mention that I love the Tombow Fudenosuke brush pen, and this has the same feel in fountain pen form, if that's a way I can articulate the way it feels when I'm writing with this. It's just such a nice and lovely, reliable writer, and it's just nice to like embellish a page with some lettering. Obviously, I don't know like proper Spencerian or copperplate calligraphy. I tried to learn copperplate many years ago, but it's just something that I never really kept up with. But I just love modern calligraphy and modern brush lettering, and so I tried to do some modern calligraphy here just to show you the flex capabilities of this fountain pen, and just to show you that you can also write with it just like a regular fountain pen. I do have to be a little bit more light-handed because sometimes I have a pretty heavy hand when I'm writing, and it'll activate, you know, the amazing line variation that this pen can give you. I'm just so amazed by how tiny this nib is, but how flexible it is. Usually I've seen other flex nibs have larger, you know, nibs that have giant cutouts on them, but this is just so cute and tiny and pocketable, and I love how it's so small but also packs such a punch and impact in terms of like my journal entries, because I can make these lovely titles or dates using, you know, some calligraphy. So this is again my second favorite, this not Robert Oster, this Waterman vintage fountain pen from the 40s. Oh, let's see. Oh, like I should add the angel voices, but I really want to look at this. Oh, of course. Will I see it after this? I see. Job's fanboying has been censored, so you don't cringe. You are welcome. Wow. Oh my gosh, it's on a silk bed. Wow. Oh. Oh, it's so beautiful. Sailor Manyo nuts. I can't believe I own this. If you couldn't tell, I absolutely love this pen. This is actually a new pen for me, so it's a very new favorite, but I love it so much. This Sailor Manyo Nuts pen is just the perfect shade of khaki, and I love olive green and khaki green, and I think this is such a lovely addition to my fountain pen collection. I've always been a like sub $50 fountain pen kind of guy. I love TWSBI Ecos and, you know, Koeko Sports and Lamy Safaris, but I thought I would add this, you know, special pen to my collection because I just couldn't pass up this lovely limited edition pen. This Sailor Manyo pen is actually, you know, a collaboration between two, you know, Manyo inks that are popular. It's the Shirakashi color, which is that lovely khaki color, and then Yamabuki, which is the yellow color, and those two colors are featured in this pen. And the whole Sailor Manyo fountain pen line, actually, I think there's like 5 of them, and they have 2 colors in the pen, one for like the top cap design and then for the body, and they always choose 2 colors of Manyo inks, and I think that's super cool, and I'm so happy that I have this in my collection. I also really like the free ink that came with it. It's the Shirakashi ink, which is this lovely khaki green. I don't have anything like this. I think the closest thing that I have to this is the exclusive ink from Robert Oster X Vancouver Pen Shop, the Van Pen 86 ink, which is a lovely khaki / brown color. But I love this pen so much. There's just something about this Pro Gear Slim Mini that feels so good in my hand. I do want to try a larger Pro Gear in the future. I think that's going to be, you know, the right fountain pen for my hand size, and I do love a good weighted pen, but I'm working my way up, baby steps to, you know, those pens. But I love this so much, and I was definitely enabled by Abby, and I was really enabled when I saw it actually at the SF Mido. I saw it in person for the first time. I was with Florence. You might have seen the video clip of me talking to Florence in the SF like shop hop video, and I was just like, oh, this is the nuts pen, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. So I finally bit the bullet and have added it to my pen collection, and I love it so much. I can't wait to use it for long form writing and to just continue using it as like a EDC pen, because I don't want to just have it waste away in my pen case, because you got to use your stuff, you got to use your pens, and I can't wait to use this in my future journaling spreads. Again, I bought a medium nib, and my first Sailor was a medium fine, but I just didn't enjoy the pencil like texture that a lot of the Sailor nibs have. I know that's the main allure to Sailor and their nibs, but I just wanted a little bit more of a smoother writing like experience with a Sailor, so I went with a proper medium, and I am proud to say that I actually really like how it writes. There's still some lovely feedback to it, but it doesn't feel off-putting for me, and I think it's just the right amount of feedback, just like writing with like a TWSBI. So I think I found my like perfect spot in terms of nibs from Sailor, and now I can go on a Sailor pen spray. Just kidding, we are not doing that, but these are my 3 current favorite pens, and they just look so aesthetic together. That color story of the brown, the khaki, and the yellow, chef's kiss. Very autumnal and very Job, and also very fitting for this season of autumn. The last thing I want to talk about are some fountain pen accessories. These are, not limited to just fountain pens, but I feel like they're like fountain pen adjacent things. And so the first thing that I want to talk about is this Rickshaw case. This is the 3-pen koozie. I believe this is the medium size. They have other sizes, but I love this so much. I picked it up at the SF Pen Show. I'm actually twinning with Abby with this one as well. I just felt the need to add this to my like fountain pen case collection. I have a few leather fountain pen or just like pen cases that are made out of leather, but I feel like this is the most protective one, and I actually really like this because although it's like bright and blue, which blue's not my favorite color, but it's starry night pattern, and I can't pass that up. It actually is so protective, and I love how this can actually fit into my other pencil cases, so I can just toss this into an existing pen pouch or pen case, and it's a nice and protective way to bring my fountain pens along with me, but not having to bring a full-on big pen case like a pen roll or like one of those larger zip cases for fountain pens. So I definitely want to add more of these into my collection, and I believe that you can actually do custom patterns and custom like color combinations with Rickshaw, because they are a made to order website. But I purchased this from the SF Pen Show, and I can't wait to support this local made in the USA company, because they just have such high quality things, and I just love that it adds a little bit of whimsy to my stationery collection and like my stationery tools, because this is a piece of Van Gogh that's going with me to the coffee shop or a work meeting or like an odd drawing in the park situation. So I love this, and I'm so happy that I have added a Rickshaw piece to my collection of stationery and fountain pen goods. Honestly, the real MVP of this video is the Kakimori steel nib. This has been the silent hero of this video because I have done all of my ink swatching with this little tiny tool. Basically, this nib allows you to write just like a dip pen, but it allows you to use different angles of this pen to get different line widths and variations. So you can make larger swatches by using a different angle, and then if you write with a higher writing angle, so basically the closer you get to 90 degrees, the finer nib or tip you get. So this is like a nice hybrid between using like a cotton swab to do some swatching and also having a glass dip pen. Obviously, it's still a different writing experience, and it feels different from writing with a glass dip pen, which is very lovely, and I don't know, it's just like a nice therapeutic experience. But for me, it's not as like calming because I always feel like I'm gonna break it, and I am happy to say that I have not broken this nib yet, and I've dropped it. I've accidentally stepped on it once. I dropped it nib down on the floor. I accidentally tossed it in the sink. It's indestructible for the most part, and I just love that this steel nib variation is still stiff enough that you can get manageable I guess swatches, but also you can write with it. I think the brass one is a little bit harder to control and it's harder to write with it, but yeah, I really recommend this. I use this a lot, and I love the sakura wood holder that I got from Kakimori. This was actually gifted to me, but I love this so much. I was gonna purchase it, honestly. It just so happened that I asked Bukins if they were going to carry this, and they ended up thanking me for putting them onto Kakimori, so they ended up gifting this to me. So thank you again, Bukins, for sending that over. I love it so much, and I use it like not daily, but I use it a lot. The last thing I want to show is, well, not this stain, but oh man, while I was doing all of this swatching and all of the filming for this, I got some water on my lovely plotter ring organizer in the Bible size, and I'm still really sad. Luckily, the band still covers it, but this was a little casualty in filming this video. But I wanted to mention that I've been loving the plotter ring organizer system. It's just a like personal size or Bible size ring organizer system, but this has smaller rings, and I just like this because I love the plotter DP paper for ink swatching, and I just think this is a nice way to store swatches, and I've just been really enjoying taking some time out of my day, usually in the evenings, to just sit down and swatch inks. It's just really therapeutic for some reason. It's really calming, and I don't know, there's just something about like inks on paper with like I don't know, like a simple not header, but like when you write the ink name beside it, and it's just that, I don't know, it just looks like art to me. Maybe I just love looking at swatches, and I've seen so many aesthetic looking swatches that I'm just like, wow, this is so beautiful. But I don't know, it's just one of those things where you get to see and highlight your inks in a very special way, and I thought that the plotter system has been amazing for that. Again, this is a system that involves many moving parts. You have to get the paper yourself. You can get dividers and whatnot, but you can also keep a similar system in a more affordable ring organizer system. But I just love plotter because it's so sleek. The leather quality is top notch, and I just love that I am in my rings era. I've always been a traveler's notebook kind of guy, but it's always nice to try new things, and I'm just loving these small 11mm rings in my plotter. It's not for everyone, but again, it's really nice for ink swatching. And if you want to try some fun new paper, I really recommend trying the plotter DP paper if you haven't tried it yet, because it's pretty easily accessible, and as we all know, Tomoe River paper is going through some changes, so yeah, I really recommend trying out this paper. I guess this is like a 4-in-1 in terms of like the things I mentioned with this last plotter system, but yeah, the paper, this whole system, everything about it is a favorite of mine right now. But I think this brings us to the end of this fountain pen favorites video. I really had a blast chatting with you all about my favorite fountain pen items, actual pens and inks. It's been really cool diving into this journey a little bit deeper. I'm still always mindful that fountain pens are actually quite pricey sometimes, and everyone has their own budget, so you do you, and find you can find yourself in this hobby at any price point. You don't have to buy a golden fountain pen to be a fountain pen enthusiast. Whatever works for you, and I think that's like the big moral of the story and the takeaway that I wanted to share with you before you go. Thank you so much to my Capricorn cousin Abby C for collaborating with me on this video. Be sure to check out her own fountain pen favorites video, which will be linked in the description bar. I really want to watch her video because we actually didn't mention what we were going to talk about in our own videos, and I have a feeling we're going to have some similarities, which I'm really excited to find out. So be sure to watch both videos and to let us know in the comments if we both kind of ended up liking the same things. Again, all of Abby's links will be in the description bar, but be sure to check out her newest book, The Art of the Travel Journal, which is her newest baby, and I was so lucky to be a part of this lovely project along with other artists and journalers. So be sure to check it out. I will be back soon with more journaling, fountain pen, and planning content. But again, if you want to catch me, you can catch me on Twitch and on Patreon for more exclusive content. I will see you in the next video. Bye everyone. Jo brang he. Bye bye.